Hey everybody, welcome to Trading the Close. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here, and today we're getting right into it with the data because I got to jump off a little bit early because I'm trading with the earnings trader guys. The Dell earnings, the Gap earnings, the Ulta earnings, Lululemon, they're all coming out around 4:05, and I got to be there to make some money as well. So let's get right into it here. We got the heat map. You can see the heat map is generally a mixed bag, mostly green, but in all fairness, Nvidia is the one that's kind of keeping the market under pressure here, which is just slightly green on the day, but Nvidia down 5.5%. Yesterday after hours, Nvidia was down as much as 7 or 8%. Today, it was only down a few percent, but it has faded throughout the course of the day. You can see Microsoft eking out a gain, Apple really trying to kind of be the repercussion or the player that sucks up the money flow that's coming out of Nvidia, taking it into Apple right here as well. Amazon up 0.6% as well. All right, looking at the indices here, guys, we have the Dow up 155 points. That's a new all-time high on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We have the NASDAQ trading up 7 points on the day, so that's basically flat. The S&P eking out a 13-point or 0.23% gain, and then crude oil, good bounce again on crude, or a good bounce today on crude, up $1.63 or 2.2%. And then gold is also having a good day, and even Bitcoin's eking out a gain today. Interesting on Bitcoin, it retested that pivot line from the underbelly, but was unable to push through and did pull back. We'll look at that chart in just a second. All right, so let's get right into it here. What do we have in terms of charts? I did want to first go over this data point right here. So tomorrow, guys, we have the PCE data. This is huge important information. Tomorrow, they're expecting a 2.6 year-over-year PCE number. Okay, last month it was 2.5, so they're actually expecting a little uptick in inflation this month. Maybe they're just cushioning that so it can come in better than expected. We'll find out tomorrow. The month-over-month number, 0.2% versus last month it was 0.1% right there, right? So let me add that little period right there. So again, we are expecting a PCE data to come in at these levels. This is the numbers to beat right here. This is what you're watching tomorrow when those numbers hit. If it's lower than this, markets probably rip to the upside. If it's higher, that would be bad. That would potentially put a wrench in the system of the Fed trying to cut rates aggressively, and the markets might get worried about that. And then obviously if it's in line, you probably see a quiet Friday, late August in terms of that action. All right. Looking at the price action here on the day, you could see that early in the day when Nvidia wasn't down that much, the markets actually were green on the day. In fact, this morning we talked about that in the game plan. But then look at what happened late in the day. Nvidia rolled over pretty sharply, now down over 5%, and the S&P just got taken right down. You can see here we are chopping into the end of the day as well, just very close to the lows of the day, and this would be the flat line right here. So I mean, you're literally within a couple dollars of the flat line on the S&P 500. All right, couple other charts. We got to look at Nvidia first and foremost. I think that's the most important one right here. You can see again on Nvidia, and let me take out the regular hours here. This is where we saw that big rollover on Nvidia right here that took the market down. So Nvidia was decent. You know, here it was still down early in the day, but it was only down a couple points, 2, 3, 4 points. And then we saw that kind of sideways slow fade, dump out, and then you can see again, S&P into the end of the day has 2 red candles, and so does Nvidia. Couple charts that were interesting today, guys. So number one, Dollar General's getting smoked today. This is a major drop on Dollar General, but I do think it is in a range that actually, for me, I started to accumulate a little bit as a swing trade today. There is so much technical support down here on the charts. If we take a look at this area right here, and again, for me, and I talked about this in the game plan this morning, is to me what's going on, you have this bifurcation where you have people that don't have investments in the stock market. They're unable to afford even going to Dollar General, or they're struggling because they don't have investments, and that's really what's been keeping consumer spending. The higher end consumers have been carrying the economy. And so you have this lower end consumer that's being priced out of even Dollar General, which is really sad. But then the higher end are not trading down to go shop at Dollar General because they're still doing well and the economy is doing well, better or decently. The big concern here is, and this is for the economy, is what happens when the economy stumbles. And that's where I think you start to see Dollar General actually find a bottom in this range on a technical basis, when you have some of those mid-income players having to start moving down to a Dollar General during a recession. And that's actually when Dollar General could actually move back up substantially. So I think there's a trade here. It may be a trade that you got to hold for 6 or 12 months, but the upside could be pretty large, and it is something that I'm eyeing here as well. Couple other charts out there as we continue through. OCTA today, big drop on OCTA. I talked about this in this morning's video, but look at where it bottomed out. Right here, right? So you have this area right here, and that's exactly where we bottomed out right there. So again, you can see the technical support working very, very well on the charts. All right, just a couple other quick tidbits here. Affirm, this was a level I talked about in the pre-market game plan, and we went right up to my first level, and actually that's where it stopped going higher due to technical resistance. So nice little move right there. Okay. Lastly, I did want to touch on Best Buy, another great level given in the game plan today. Take a look at this, guys. We talked about this zone right in here. Look at all that chop right in here, the lows here, all the way through. It goes up, pierces, and then reverses and comes back in. So again, good resistance, and using the charts really does give us an advantage. Next up, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin, again, look at this, guys. Bitcoin pushed up, tagged the pivot line from the underbelly right here, and then was rejected right there. So again, tagged the underbelly right there and got rejected. The path of least resistance, unfortunately for bulls, is still to the downside. Not to say that it can't get above the pivot line and confirm, then the path of least resistance starts going to the upside. But nonetheless, at this point, that is still, you're still below. You got to favor that path of least resistance. All right, next up, let's take a look at US oil here. US oil getting a good bounce. I still think overall this is a shortable opportunity, and I still expect oil to break to the downside pretty sharply here over the next couple weeks. I would say we probably break this level. I remain short on crude oil here. Lastly, again, guys, just a couple other things here as we get through here. And again, I got to say, I'm not a huge fan of this mouse there, but that's okay. Let's see if we can just punch it in. There's gold. Gold, again, guys, holding up pretty decently here. And again, what we're seeing is that gold continues to hobble just around 2,500. I've mentioned to you the negative divergence that I'm seeing on the RSI. So tomorrow's a big day, right? PCE will impact the US dollar, the 10-year, and it will ultimately have a trail effect to a big move in gold. It's either going to be up big or down big. Again, to me, I'm not sure which way it's going to go, but ultimately would not shock me to see a move to the downside in gold. Just a small correction, wiping out kind of the weak hands before that next potential move to the upside. And then lastly, let's look at silver here as we take a look. We can see that silver, again, with a small bounce to the upside, very minor bounce, but nonetheless getting a little bounce. Target of upside resistance remains $30.50 to $31. So just to summarize, Nvidia, we're past that earnings announcement, right? Today we have Dell in just a couple minutes. In fact, in about a minute and a half, Dell will be out. We have Ulta, we have Lululemon, which will be big on the consumer side. So watch those reports, see what those stocks do. And then ultimately tomorrow morning, the PCE data. Let's go and find out what those earnings are. I'm going to run in with the earnings trader guys and trades these reports. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.